Hello, you guys. It's Kayla, and I'm coming to you with my long-awaited rant about A Chance to Love. Full transparency, it took me 3 attempts to finish this season because it was so triggering. Not in terms of content, but because I couldn't believe this was the same show that helped me out of a severe depression. I felt so let down, and it caused all these old emotions to resurface. So apologies if anything I say comes off harshly, but I just feel very strongly about Love by Chance and what this series meant to me in the past. Anyway, let's get right into the video. The first problem I had with season 2 is the way it was distributed. A Chance to Love began airing on WeTV on September 2nd, 2020, and gradually thereafter on Rakuten Viki. Because access to WeTV is limited to certain countries, international fans have to purchase a VPN to view anything on that site. Most people, myself included, opted to wait for the episodes to be available on Viki, which is more streamable than WeTV but still restricted in many countries. So right from the beginning, we had this distinct difference in distribution methods between season 1 and 2. The first season was published on May 27th, 2018 via Line TV and Studio Wabi Sabi's YouTube channel. As far as I know, both platforms are free with ads and, of course, far more accessible to an international audience. Now, I understand why publishing dramas onto subscription services could be necessary in order to pay everyone involved, but this is the type of inaccessibility that leads to media being pirated. I know a ton of people who watched A Chance to Love illegally because they couldn't afford a VIP membership or monthly fee. That's the reality for many. Not everyone has the privilege of throwing money at 5 different streaming platforms. Without engagement from the general public, you stand to hurt your viewership tremendously. Now, I planned on showing a comparison in view count between seasons 1 and 2 of Love by Chance, but I could only find the view count for season 1, which was 118 million views. The view count for season 2 was never made public, but I guess that tells you all you need to know. I refuse to believe that the popularity of Love by Chance was not in part due to the attention it received on an international basis. Analytics and things of the sort can be boring to discuss, but I really do think the conversation of shows being put behind a paywall is an important one to be had. Even more important is that this often leaves non-American international fans at a disadvantage. As I was researching for this video, I found many paying members complaining in forums about the Viki Pass Plus, and that even with that pass, fans from outside the US can't access many of the dramas offered on the platform. Madness, I tell you. Distribution aside, I was willing to give this season a chance. But within the first 20 minutes of episode 1, I was bewildered by the changes that Mame made to Tin and Can's storyline. If you'll recall, the first season ended with Tin and Can becoming closer, but ultimately with Can rejecting Tin because he wasn't ready to confront his feelings. And so I think we all expected the storyline to pick up from there, but it didn't. For some reason, Mame decided to completely scrap the progression of Tin Can's relationship and start over, all while maintaining that continued timeline from season 1 for the rest of the characters. This was probably my biggest complaint about this season because it created a disconnect that I could never truly look past. I kept questioning how believable it was that Tin would be friends with Pete while he was in a relationship with A, and yet Can, who is A's close friend, has never seen Tin in his life. It's a plot hole, and it made their storyline feel like a Tin Can fanfiction. But even that, I was willing to disregard because I wanted so badly to enjoy this season. Unfortunately, the botched storyline is just the tip of the iceberg. Another thing I want to talk about is the acting. I'm not sure if anybody else picked up on this, but other than A, Pond, Tar, and Techno, Everyone seemed out of character. I noticed this especially with Tin and Can. It seemed like their hearts weren't in it anymore, and honestly, I don't blame them. But it's so glaringly obvious that they're tired of playing these roles, and that's reflected in how they interact as characters. Initially, I thought I was being too critical, but after comparing their scenes in this season to the first one, they're like shells of themselves. Somewhere along the line, their chemistry vanished. But let's move on to the unexpected pros. Believe it or not, I did like some things about this season, and one of those things was how they handled the AP storyline with Saint's absence. I loved how A's struggle with alcohol was depicted along with his steady recovery. I loved the detail of him treating Facebook as a one-way correspondence with Pete. I loved the fact that he still wore the bracelet Pete made him along with his old shirt. Everything was done right with his character. His plot made sense, and it was reinforced by all the flashback scenes. I kept watching because I wanted to see him get better and forge on with his life, and that's exactly what we got. I will say I was a bit confused by the text he received at the end, and I'm curious as to what we were supposed to take away from that as the viewers. As for Tum and Tar's storyline, I found it surprisingly healthy. You guys know I wanted more from these two characters, but after seeing how things concluded, I think it was for the best. I loved Tar's sentiments about moving on because that's exactly what needed to happen. And you can see in Tum's face that he's accepting of this. They both looked so happy, and it made me happy for them. So much character development was done in so little screen time. Moving on to Techno and Kankla, I really have nothing to say about their storyline. It was more of the same stalking and pining from season 1, except we saw Techno warming up to Kankla. Since I don't support this pairing, I don't have any real observations about their interactions or relationship. Okay, let's talk about my favorite aspect of this season, Tin's family drama. I lived for it, I died for it, and I lived again because of it. I thought the dynamic between Tin and his older brother Tool was so fascinating, and anytime they weren't on the screen, I was probably disinterested. Honestly, I wish there was more of a focus on the family drama because I was so invested in finding out why Tool hated his brother so much, and how his former assistant Gonhin played into everything. And not to mention how the divorce from his wife was going to affect their son. I was enthralled, you guys. The way I felt watching those last 2 episodes is how I wish I would have felt throughout the whole season. I'm still thinking about Tin's father telling him that he didn't pay as much attention to him, not because he didn't love him, but because he wanted to give him something that he and Tool could never have. Freedom. Can any novel readers tell me if there's a big emphasis on Tool and Gonhin in the novels? Because I would read it, unless there's some toxic tropey shit, then count me out. Speaking of the novel, I do have one critique about the transition to screenplay. So I noticed several moments where a character would make an obscure reference to something in the novel, and when you're converting a written work into a visual format, that should never happen. There should be no need for viewers to read the novel to understand what's going on in the series. That's bad storytelling, but I'll leave it at that. I'm choosing not to talk about the messy camera work during the soccer matches because I'm not sure if I'll be able to put footage of that in to show you with copyright and all. But just know that there was a lot of sporadic zooming. So those are my complicated but honest thoughts about A Chance to Love. I don't think it was the worst season 2 I've seen of a BL drama, but it definitely wasn't that memorable either. After living through the controversy that occurred back in 2018, my expectations going into it were already low. And like I said, it just makes me sad, especially because I've always trusted director Nu's vision. Shout out to the cast for hanging in there. It probably wasn't easy re-immersing themselves into a 2-year-old project. Anyway, thank you to the moon and back for watching. I have 2 more ranty videos coming, so stay tuned for that. And I hope to see you guys next week. Maybe? Okay. Bye!